Good day, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the IELTS Plus English podcast. And it's an interesting topic today. We're going to be talking all about dreams. Dreams. This is an interesting topic and something I've had lots of conversations about with students because some students have very vivid dreams and they feel that elements of their dreams have certain meanings. Others don't, they don't really assign much meaning to them. So I'd love to hear from you today. I've got a student question for you. I'll give that to you later, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on dreams. Before we start, so first thing I'd like to mention is I took a poll recently on Spotify and I asked you, what do you find most difficult about the IELTS exam when preparing for the IELTS speaking exam? And there's some really interesting answers, but basically, the number one issue was vocabulary. I totally understand. There's a lot to learn and it can be really overwhelming. So I'd like to give you a little tip today to help you with your vocabulary when preparing for the IELTS speaking exam. And this tip is all about efficiency. There are thousands of words in English. And you see my textbook, which was 800 words. So these are great, they're topic specific. But if you're tight for time, memorizing 800 words in a week, for example, is going to be really tough. Impossible, I would say. Especially if you're trying to use it in your spoken English. So my tip today is two things related to efficiently and quickly learning vocabulary for an upcoming exam. Number one, make a list of 10 extreme adjectives. Extreme adjectives are stronger versions of regular adjectives. So a regular adjective would be good. An extreme adjective would be amazing. Good, amazing. Dirty, filthy. Cold, freezing. Hot, boiling. These stronger adjectives are called extreme adjectives. Find your common adjectives. You definitely use good, bad, important. I know you do a lot. And turn them into extreme adjectives. And you'll be able to use that constantly through an exam. And that's a really easy, quick way of upgrading your vocabulary. The next thing I'd like you to do is, now you're going to have to do this yourself for the most part, but I will give you some advice. You need to find high-level, flexible vocabulary. These are words that can be used in any topic. They are not topic specific. I call them general use vocabulary. Find them, make a list. Let's make it 10 again. That's enough. And again, we're looking for words that you can use in every topic for every answer. Obviously, don't use them for every answer, but you'll be able to. Some examples are detrimental, paramount, tremendously, ubiquitous. These words you can use for any topic. There's no limitation because they mean very simple things. Detrimental just means harmful or bad for. So A is detrimental to B means A is bad for B. Very simple, but it's a high-level upgrade that will get you some points. So my whole point with what I've said is efficiency and finding two lists of 10 words. That's all you need. And if those 20 words come out in your next exam, you've definitely upgraded your vocabulary. So I said I would mention one more thing with that second tip, the high level flexible vocabulary. And that is, I have a video on my YouTube channel. I think it's called Band 9 Vocabulary. Go to that video. There are 10 words. That's the type of word I'm recommending to you today. And that's all I'll say. I think that really helps some students, and I hope it helps you too. you are going to get a student challenge now. Do you believe dreams have meanings? This is your student challenge question, which means I want you to give me your answer in the comments. Now, if you're on Spotify, you can comment, and please do. I don't think people tend to comment on Spotify, but I do check. And of course, YouTube, put it in the comment section. I will give you feedback. It's a part 1 style question, so give me your answer like a part 1. Let's get started. We've got our vocabulary list today. Of course, today's vocabulary is available for you on www.britplus.net. And there's some wonderful vocabulary, really topic specific, lucid, vivid, surreal. If you have time to prepare for your IELTS test, this is the kind of stuff you've got to be getting, your topic-specific vocabulary that will really impress your examiner. So that's available in my textbook. Let's get started. Part 1, question 1. Do you often remember your dreams? I think I do, actually. I have pretty crazy dreams. They're pretty surreal. And I very often wake up in the morning and remember everything. I don't tend to have nightmares. They tend to be positive, but I do remember them. Next question. Do you think dreams have any special meanings? I don't think so. I've heard a lot of people say there are meanings. I don't think I've ever experienced any kind of meanings. I don't really believe in the symbolism of elements of dreams. In Korea, they talk about fire, the president. You know, if these elements appear in your dreams, it's a very positive sign. But for me personally, I haven't found that yet, but I hope so. Next, let's go straight to part 2. So this is an interesting one. I'll read the question first. Describe a dream you remember well. Now, the reason I say this is an interesting question is if you get this in your exam and you are someone who doesn't have dreams, you're going to feel in trouble. Oh, what am I going to talk about? I don't have dreams. How can I talk about one I remember well? This is one of those cases, and don't be scared. You've got to lie. If you don't have dreams, lie. You know, try to think of a kind of dream. Maybe you could get inspiration from a movie. You know, talk about Harry Potter, but put yourself as the main character. That will give you plenty to talk about and allow you to use a lot of this good vocabulary. Don't be afraid to lie. I do say that to all my students, but not easy. It's something that I do recommend practicing in your free time. I, on the other hand, have lots of dreams, so I can talk about them. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm putting 2 minutes on the clock now. So describe a dream you remember well. My 2 minutes starts now. I'd like to tell you about a dream that I used to have as a child, which was a bit of a nightmare. So when I was young, perhaps, around 10, maybe younger, I used to have a lot of dreams and nightmares. I don't tend to have nightmares nowadays, but still I have those strong dreams. But I had a number of very memorable nightmares, and it used to wake me up at night. It used to stay in my mind the next day. It was not very pleasant, and they were repetitive. The dreams came up very often. I didn't analyze them, but they seem to often be the same ones. So let me tell you about the kind of most memorable recurring nightmare that I had. And this was where it's pretty simple. I was in a city, and the city was on fire, and I was just running through the city trying to find safety. So that's the dream. I remember it was quite an old city, and of this fire all around in the buildings, and I'm running around the streets, which were safer. There wasn't fire in the streets, but all the buildings are on fire. And the whole thing is trying to find safety, but I think I always woke up before there was a conclusion. Now, is there meaning to this dream or nightmare? Perhaps. I don't know. Maybe people can tell me, but it was definitely a recurring nightmare, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. I would wake up sweating, or I would wake up feeling very anxious. So for me personally, as I said, I don't assign meaning to these types of dreams, but it was... Okay, time is up. You'll notice with my answer, firstly, I didn't have that dream. The nightmare is very simple. The story is very simple. I cannot tell you the story of that nightmare for 2 minutes. There's just not enough content. So I could lie. That is an option, but what I chose to do was set up the story to the nightmare by talking about my childhood, and I often had recurring nightmares, and they often were the same ones, and it made me feel uncomfortable. So I spent a minute really setting up, giving context to the nightmare, and that's what you can do with my structure, and it gives you diversity in your answer. Okay, let's do some part threes. Do you think dreams can influence our waking life? I think that dreams, yeah, absolutely they can influence our waking life, but perhaps not for the meaning that we are going for with this question. So they can influence our waking life by making us wake up happier or more anxious, nervous, unhappy, depressed. Our dreams can kind of set up our emotion for the day. But in terms of interpreting those dreams and getting some meaning from them, until now, I've not seen any evidence. In Korea, I mentioned earlier, they assign meaning to, not everyone, but they assign meaning to various elements, such as, definitely fire and the president, or pigs as well. And that often has a positive meaning. You're going to get money, for example. I don't believe that. I think that there is an unconscious effect from the dreams on our emotion. Next question. Are there any cultural beliefs about dreams in your country? Well, I'm from England, and quite frankly, I'm not sure. I don't think dreams are a huge part of British culture as they are in other cultures. I think some cultures really embrace the symbolism of dreams, but in the UK, certainly my experience is that we don't. However, there are a lot of apps and online services, or even offline services, that you have people who interpret dreams, and even I think it's embraced in therapy in the UK that you tell your therapist about your recurring dream, and they tell you that, oh, well, maybe you're anxious about something, or maybe this shows a certain emotion about an upcoming event. So I think that's the extent of it in the UK. Last question. Can dreams be used for problem solving or creativity? Yeah, I think there are certain ways to do that. Daydreaming. I daydream, sometimes I'll sit there and daydream, and I think that can inspire some ideas and creativity. Sometimes when I go for a walk or I take a shower, I probably just daydream, and that can inspire something. The other thing, which I've never tried, is lucid dreaming, which is where you are purposely sleeping, dreaming, and then becoming conscious of your dream and controlling your dream. I've never done it. I've heard interesting things, but perhaps not something I'm going to experiment with because I just want to sleep. I'll ask you, we're coming to the end now, but I'll ask you a quick question because I am genuinely curious. Have you ever experienced lucid dreaming? I've never done it. If you have, please tell me in the comments. I am curious It's this whole community online of people that do it and talk about the benefits. So how about you? Have you done it? I am curious. That's everything I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I think that was perhaps quite a tough episode. I feel like I used a lot of difficult vocabulary, quite difficult structures in the answers. I don't know how you felt, but it felt a little bit difficult. I really enjoyed talking about it. And next week is something I'm really passionate about. Entrepreneurship, which is basically starting our own businesses. Something I'm super passionate about. So I'm really looking forward to that. So have a lovely week this week. Study tremendously hard. And I will see you next Monday for the next episode about entrepreneurship. See you then. Bye-bye.